Hey guys, it's Ann and we're live again. And today we're live with Matt Watkins from Titan 100. But before we switch over to him, I'm going to ask a favor. I have revived my YouTube channel and I need your help. It would help me a whole lot if you guys could go over and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Even if you're watching this on Facebook, you can watch it live over there. But I've put my address down here. It's youtube.com/Brennan Annie. By the way, I'm Brennan Annie everywhere. So if you want to find me anywhere, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, I'm Brennan Annie everywhere. You can find me that way. I think I'm even Brennan Annie on LinkedIn. So look for me that way. But I would really appreciate a subscribe over there. That would help me a lot. All right. So now we've got Matt Watkins. I wanted to have him. I've known Matt for a few years. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
So, and he's going to talk to us about a lot, actually. We may run over our 30 minutes, but I think that's okay because he's got a lot of information and he's doing some really cool stuff. Matt, tell us what you're doing at Titan 100.
So Titan 100 is basically a premium networking group for business owners that want to play at a higher level. We get together and we do like the referral thing, just like a lot of other networking groups, but then we take it a step above that and we set accountability items for each other. We do motivational stuff. We team building exercise, all that kind of stuff. Just basically do the referral thing and all that kind of stuff. But then really surround ourselves with business owners that want to play at a higher level and business owners that are looking to sort of step their game up beyond just, hey, we're a good referral partner, but build relationships that are built on helping each other grow, not just revenue, but literally pushing each other outside of our comfort zones and stuff. So,
yeah. So actually, one of the things that attracted me to the group was accountability. And you really hold people accountable in this group. Why is that so important for new businesses or for businesses, period?
So I had a firsthand experience with how important this was when I was before I was self-employed, but I was still in management. And I kind of realized I realized this big time when I went self-employed too. When you're self-employed or when you're like higher up on the food chain in the company, there becomes less and less people to hold you accountable. When you're totally self-employed, there's literally nobody to hold you accountable. I mean, sure, like you have your clients and you have to perform for them and stuff, and they can hold you accountable in that way. But ultimately, you can't be fired. You can't be, they can't cut your hours or your pay or whatever. You're the head honcho. You're the one that is making all the decisions. And so if you allow yourself to be distracted, if you allow yourself to basically not, accountability becomes almost impossible for yourself. You have to be so crazy disciplined to be able to hold yourself accountable that it's a whole lot easier to do when you surround yourself with a group of people. And so I realized that, to answer the question of why, I realized how hard it was, but not just how hard it was, but the importance of it. So I have this whole story that I wrote in one of my motivational speeches about accountability and discipline and stuff, and how when we had that lack of accountability, when we had the lack of nobody really holding anybody to any kind of higher standard, over the course of the 3 years that I worked there, by the time I got to the end of it, our systems and processes, our tracking, all of our marketing campaigns, all of it was just defunct. And it was because we never took those measures to actually hold each other accountable. And I realized the higher up the food chain you got in the business, the harder it was to implement that level of accountability. So.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And then as a small business owner, it's so easy for me. Actually, I will tell the story. It's really embarrassing to say, but I finally had to call Lakia. You know Lakia, she's an accountant. I had to call Lakia and say, hey, can you do my billing? Because honestly, I've gone 3 months without billing a single client. That's crazy. I started the business to make money. Meanwhile, here I am, taking care of my clients and not taking care of myself. So that whole idea of paying attention to your business, working in your business, and working on your business as opposed to just in it. And it's been funny because this whole coronavirus has helped me so much to work on my business, even though I'm still working really hard for my clients. I've spent a lot of time figuring out how we're going to build this business. So Um, I want to talk about this one. You know that Burgers and Bands is my baby. Burgers and Bands for Suicide Prevention. You know, stress and angst, depression, all of that is in my soul, and it so worries me for small business owners. So tell me a little bit about how having a group of other people who you work with helps in that situation.
So again, all of the stuff that we're building Titan 100 to be is all about personal experiences that I had. And I realized real quick when I went self-employed how there's not just a different level of stress, certainly a higher level of stress, but also it's a different stress. And it's something that so my wife is a teacher. All right. So she works for the county, and even through this coronavirus stuff, job security, like not many other people have.
Right.
So when I would want to vent to her and express to her how stressed I was over the business, or how much tightness I had in my chest over the next step in the business or whatever, she was always sympathetic and stuff, but you could tell there was just a disconnect in how
it's not the same.
Yeah.
And my husband has a high pressure job, but he's with General Dynamics, and he's not alone in this. And if he does something wrong, I mean, he's got a lot of stress, don't get me wrong, but he's not worried about his employees, and he's not worried, it's different.
Right.
So,
yeah. And you realize how lonely it is after a while. And so, just gathering around other people that, have stresses that just your average W-2 employee just doesn't have. Right.
Right.
1099 employees carry almost that same level. It's just when you're not, and I'm not trying, my wife's W-2, I'm not trying to say anything bad about it, but
right.
There's just not that level of security when you're not W-2'd. And so, trying to surround yourself with people that share those same stresses. I have this whole thing about horses, right? It's one horse can pull, I think it's 2,000 pounds. I don't know how the numbers work out. One horse can pull 2,000 pounds, but two horses together can pull 6,000.
Right.
And so the whole reason for that is it's when you share the load with somebody else, it becomes easier to carry. And so there's that. It's just being able to get it out in a group setting and tell people about the stress you're having. That alone is therapeutic.
Right. And to find out you're not alone, because as soon as you say, this is what scares me, the other people go, oh God, yeah, that's exactly what scares me.
Yeah. And then you can also talk to people who have been in that same position and figure out how they work through whatever it is that's causing the immediate stress, at least. So.
Exactly. I want to, we have a comment I want to put up because I think it goes back to accountability. She says, I'm challenged with a schedule of when I am making my follow-up calls and how to make follow-up calls, and will they be productive, right? So that's a big thing. And if you're by yourself, you're just answering that. You're figuring out, you're recreating the will, right? And you don't necessarily need to do that. You've got people, if you got people who are holding you accountable, hey, this is what you need to do. But also people who can say, you don't have to make 20 follow-up calls. You can make this many follow-up calls, or however, whatever it is, somebody who's been there can really help you with that. Somebody who really gets it can help you with that.
Yeah. So the other thing too is with stuff like that, the accountability and all that stuff, I think that a huge part of it is that you have to celebrate every single one I think you have to celebrate every single one as a victory. I think a lot of times people look at it as okay, I got to make 20 follow-up phone calls, and it's not a victory until I have all 20 done.
Right.
And I used to be like that. And you become crushed under the weight of this big task of 20 instead of looking at it as and so for me, I'm a sales trainer was what I did, so I'm good at sales. I can walk into somebody's house cold and not be afraid, but getting on the phone and making a cold call, I hate it. And so every time I do that, you have to count each one of those as a victory, not as, and that way you can encourage yourself, and that helps hold yourself accountable, just because you're celebrating each little call instead of saying, oh man, I still got 19 more to do, saying,
absolutely,
I picked up the phone and I made that first call.
Yeah. Carrie, I hope that helped you. I'm glad you asked the question. I want to encourage everybody who is watching, because we have a lot of people watching right now, but everybody who is watching, I want to encourage you to leave a comment, ask questions, but when you leave a comment, let us know what your business is. And the reason is that as we're going through and I'm talking to Matt, I can say to him, so Tiffany Jackson's on here. Tiffany Jackson is a vet tech, but she's gone out on her own. She's doing house calls for your pets, which is kind of a cool little niche that she's got going there. But if we know that when Matt's going through this, he can do more, right? He can answer specifically to her. So whatever you do. So Carrie, we don't know what you do. If you let us know, and anybody else who's on here, leave us a comment as to what you do, what your business is. You can even tag your business. I don't mind that at all. I want to go back. Carrie does have another question. She says, I do have one accountability partner to make calls and follow-up calls, but I get the names all over the place. Who said what? And I'm looking for a layout of how to even start. Actually, I have to tell you something, and I'm not going to step on Matt's show here, his part here. But tomorrow, Carrie, you need to tune in because we're going to have Michael Carrico from Able Spark, and he's going to tell you exactly how to do what you're talking about. Because I had him on because everybody I've talked to since I started this last week has said, are you using a CRM? I'm like, and I, crawl under my desk and say, that's the one accountability thing I have a problem with. So anyway, so tune in tomorrow for that one. Matt, I want to go back to some of the questions we had. So I like this. I love your thoughts on this. I've heard you talk about it before, but why shouldn't your business return to business as normal when coronavirus is over?
Yeah, so this is something I've been preaching to my members. When this whole thing is over, this coronavirus craze is over, your business shouldn't return to normal. And what I mean when I say that is I think that your people are wasting a huge opportunity. Right now, what you're seeing is businesses learn and because they're forced to learn different ways to do things. What services can I offer to pick up the slack? And that was what we talked about. Like, what am I learning that I can offer? What am I learning that my clients need in this time? And then how can I push that out to after this is over? Like, just for example, a restaurant that has never done delivery, they really need to consider if they're killing it and making great money with this delivery and they're able to survive through this coronavirus thing. I don't see any reason to stop that after the coronavirus is over. The other part of it is where you're making cuts, right? What I don't think should happen and what you should learn from is the first couple things that you cut to survive this thing, you should really be careful with implementing those things back into your business because there's a reason that those were the first things that were cut. And so you have to ask yourself, were these truly necessary? I have watched businesses just collapse under overhead. They had great systems and processes, great sales, cash flow, great sales, all that stuff, but just the overhead, just no matter how good our sales were, we just couldn't keep up.
Exactly.
So the first, right, I think that the first couple things that people cut, if you're really honest with yourself and really honest about your business, you could probably say, those things were probably waste. And so when this is over, if you just return it, you just plug all that waste right back into your business, then you've wasted this time to learn what parts of your business are truly essential to keeping the lights on and then growing.
Right. Exactly. I want to say something I want to go back to this fact that when you have people who are in your tribe, for lack of a better term, but you have people who are in your tribe, you learn something more than you would learn elsewhere. And this just came up with you just now. You said that you don't want to return to business as usual because you're learning stuff right now. And then you said, you and I just talked about this. And we did, but I didn't put that together until you just said that. We talked about the fact that suddenly in my business, I am getting a lot of phone calls from business to business, from B2B businesses, right? And this is a really new thing for me. And suddenly I'm like, oh, this is actually probably an area I need to go down. This is something I need to learn from, but I didn't think about it as something I'm learning and I need to make sure. I didn't think about it the same way you just said it. So I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. And that's like, so with our Titan 100 laser groups, or what for the viewers, that's what our weekly smaller chapters are called. Like I always pictured them, never considered them over Zoom, always pictured them being in person. But this has sort of forced us, and we've been super consistent in meeting every week and stuff, even through Zoom. And kind of what I'm learning is it's like a lot of the members seem to be responding to it and seem to like Zoom. So I'm still kind of pushing for in person, but I should take my own advice and learn that, hey man, if this is what makes it easier to fit into people's schedules and we can still bring that level of accountability and mastery and all that stuff, like that, it might be the way so yeah, just learning like what your customers respond to.
Right. Exactly. And I will say that about the whole Zoom thing. The amount of time I have to get stuff done right now is insane. And I am very busy. My husband says, I've never seen you busier, but I'm not driving everywhere.
Yeah.
And that cutting out the drive time has been huge for me. Carrie had another, she asked a question. So let me just say it. I will do this show every day at 10 o'clock in the morning, every morning at 10 a.m. It will be recorded. It's on Twitter, it's on YouTube, and it's on Facebook, but it is recorded. So you can watch it. If you missed the show, you can watch it. And I'm encouraging my guests to please come back on and answer the questions. So I'm encouraging them to pay attention at the end of the day and for the next couple of days to the questions that come up so that they can answer them. And if they don't answer them, I will get an answer for you. So if you have a question, always leave a comment down below and somebody will get back to you on that answer. All right. So let's go back to, you wanted to talk about discipline, mastery, and consistency.
So this is something that this goes hand in hand with the accountability. And part of the reason that I push this on the Titans so hard is because one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Ray Lewis. And I know like that's a divisive.
I love the quote. I know what you're going to say. So,
but one of his quotes is greatness is a lot of small things done well. And that embodies everything that I think what it means to be a Titan in business. That's what it is, right? It's greatness is a lot of small things done well. It's almost back to that cold calling example of celebrating each individual victory. I think that, so I have a story that I use to tell this, and basically it's about pull-ups, right?
Okay.
I was a gym rat, big time workout head and stuff, but I'm a big guy, right? I'm 6'3", over 200 pounds. And so pull-ups were always a weak point for me. And I started doing this thing one summer where I said, okay, anytime I walk under a door frame or whatever, anytime I walk under something and it wouldn't be weird or awkward, I'm just going to grab it and do one pull-up, right?
Right.
By the end of that summer, it was crazy the amount that I could do in one thing, but it was just by every time I walked under a bar or whatever, just in passing, if I was on the street, whatever it was, I would just grab it and do one pull-up. And just by doing that, right, I didn't have to set aside all this time. I didn't have to commit all of these resources to getting better. I didn't have to go out and buy a bunch of protein powder. I didn't have to it was just the discipline to remember, the consistency to remember, hey, every time I can do one. And I know that's not business, but it paints the picture of what I'm trying to talk about, how it's the more you do just small tasks that build towards your success, that's what creates the big success picture. I always tell people, as much as Titan 100 is about motivation and all that stuff, I'm not a big, I actually sometimes joke that I'm the world's first demotivational speaker. And the reason I make that joke is because I'm not real big on like there's those people out there that are, you got to hustle and grind until you die. And like, it's just, I don't think that that's the only formula for success. I think that it's more just about small methodical decisions that, I always say like success is actually pretty boring, right? You look at Arnold winning Mr. Olympia 7 times, like that's greatness. But the act of just doing curls, it's boring. There's
right, exactly.
Flashy about it, but that's what it takes to become a master of something. That's what mastery means. So
exactly. I have to tell you, when I know you're not a soccer person, but when Ethan, do you know what keepy uppy is? Or juggling for soccer?
I know what juggling is. Yeah.
So in England, we called it keepy uppy. So we still do that. Sorry. But when Ethan started that, he had a coach that would say, I want you to just do it to ILOVESOCCER, right? And each time, so that's one juggle, and then two, and then just until you get through I love soccer, and then you can stop. Well, Ethan can now, and even now at 20, he's about 24 years old, even at almost 24 years old, he can do 2,800 or more of those without dropping the ball.
Yeah.
And that's with tricks. Like he'll take it then and pop it up and catch it on his neck and then drop it back down to his feet and never drop it. But that is a matter of consistency.
Yeah. And I think everything is like riding a bike. Once you master, it's like they say, it's like riding a bike. You never forget how to do it. When you've truly mastered something and you've done it just through small repetitive tasks, learning how to do it and making sure you're a master of your craft, whatever it is, there's an expertise that comes with that that's never going to leave you no matter how out of practice you are.
Right. Exactly. Matt, I'm going to put you on the line here because Tiffany has a question. And Tiffany, this is a question I can't answer for you because the truth is I am the biggest extrovert in the world. So it's not, but when I met Matt, the second thing he said to me was, I hate small talk. And and you've gotten better at it. But Tiffany asks, how do you find your tribe? I have a problem connecting with people for some reason, and I can't seem to find a tribe. So how did you do it? How did you force yourself into that? Because I do know it takes networking. It does take getting out there and doing something.
Yeah. So a huge part of it for me was I actually had to, and this might not be the answer you're looking for, but I actually had to take my filter off a little bit and stop trying to please everybody. Because I think that was sort of what my original approach was. Like, I just need the shotgun blast, cast this wide net of getting as many people in contact with me and building my tribe that way. And it wasn't until I kind of realized, like, you got to take the rifle approach, right? You have to look for people who have the same mindset and connect and take the filter off a little bit. The reason I say is because it does weed out the people that you run the risk of offending people. And I'll tell you, like, Tiffany, I'm a huge introvert. I just posted something on Facebook the other day about somebody said this quarantine could last for 18 months. And I got like a little bit excited.
That's awful.
I know, but like, just a joke, but like, I'm a big time introvert. But I kind of learned taking the filter off a little bit. It's you run the risk of offending people, or you run the risk of not everybody gelling with you. But what ends up happening is the people that do respond a whole lot more. Right? It's I saw something the other day. I don't remember where I saw it, but it said it's better to build something that 100 people love than it is to build something 1,000 people like.
Right.
And that was sort of how I decided to do it. And that was like, you have to, you take the filter off, you're just honest with people, right? To a fault almost.
Right.
And kind of let the chips fall where they may. And what you'll find is you're going to turn more people off than you would if you had sort of just tried to be everybody to everybody, everything to everybody. But the people that you connect with, they're just going to be shallow connections. They're going to be people that only get this surface image of you. So that's kind of how I did it. Was you just kind of had to stop tiptoeing.
So, and I have two other pieces of advice. One is know that you're enough. Know that when you're in the room with a bunch of people, that they're not thinking of you as anything less than they are. And I think too many of us go out, and I know I did it when I first started networking. I went out and I'm like, I just started this business. And honestly, I worked at a shoe store before, And so I thought less of myself. So I started realizing, no, I'm enough. I know a lot about this business. I know a lot, and it's okay. And then the other thing is to remember, you're the expert. And Tiffany, when you walk in a room, pretty much you can almost guarantee there is not another person in that room that knows as much as you do about animals and about training and all of the things that go into what you're doing. So know that you're enough. I think if you can keep that in mind, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So Matt, actually, I know we're going to go back to our stuff, but we have a lot of questions over here. So I want to, and this is the best. These are the most questions I've had so far. So I'm pretty excited about this. So what would your biggest piece of advice on starting a business right now?
So this comes back to the unfiltered thing. And I tell you, this isn't an answer people like, but it's what I tell people. you got to do it. There's never going to be a good time to start a business. You can always have more savings. You can always have, I really am a huge believer that when it comes to starting a business, there is an element of preparing, but at the same time, ultimately you got to jump off the cliff and learn to build the plane on the way down.
Yeah.
That's been my approach to it. I had a lot of, what do you call, I don't want to call them setbacks, but I had a lot of issues when Titan 100 first started because I was trying to please everybody and I didn't know exactly what I wanted it to be. So it was like every time I got a new client, I sort of let them dictate what the business was going to look like. And it wasn't until a few months in that I finally said, okay, look, I have to do this. I got to do it my way. This has to be a group that I envision what it's going to be. And ultimately just made the decision. And it was like, I don't have everything. I still don't have everything figured out. When we get back to our monthly in-person events, I still have no clue, right? We've done like 4 or 5 of them. And I think some of them went good and some of them didn't. And I still don't know exactly what they're going to look like, but I just know that as soon as this coronavirus thing's over, I'm doing another event.
Right.
It's
Which is why you hate the whole extrovert thing. So I'm gonna actually ask a question of all of our watchers right now. Everybody who's watching right now, I want you to. Chris has said, read a lot of books, surround yourself with like-minded individuals, have a mindset of being successful is your duty, and learn to say no. I think those are great bits of advice. But my question for everybody who's watching this right now, I want to know what your favorite business, leadership, motivational, any book like that is. I'm going to tell you mine is, oh my gosh, The E-Myth Revisited. I have read it a dozen times. I have handed it out. I've actually bought, I feel like Oprah. I'm like, here, you get a copy and you get a copy because I'm constantly handing that book out. I hand it out and I go back and buy another copy for myself. So I really do. So that is my favorite book. I'd like to know what yours is. If you guys want to leave a message, that would be great. We have, look at that. Charlotte Rain, I just have to pull her up because Charlotte Rain is here from Denmark. So you guys may have met her son last year. Charlotte's son is Nikolai, and he was our very first intern at ASMM. So
that's awesome.
I don't know if you met him, but he's such a darling kid. I love him. All right. Who does, right? I'm not sure what that's in reference to, John. I'll get back to you on that. But no, we have a lot of comments coming through right now, so that's good. Matt, let's go back over to, hold on. I did that again. I have to get rid of him. Oh, Tiffany said, you're going to like that. Her favorite book is your dad's book.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
All right, let's go back down here.
I have to say that's my favorite, though.
Yeah, it's a good book. And I like your dad being he's so authentic. He just says exactly what he's feeling. And he's so not afraid to say his emotions. And I think that's a good thing, Yeah. All right. I'm going to allow you to talk about this one. You said, it's just so you guys know how this format works. The way it normally works is I say, all right, I've chosen you to be on the show because I think you've got something of value, but I want to know what your top 5 or 6 things are that you're going to talk about. And when I do that, you send it through, and sometimes I say yay, sometimes I say nay. I saw this, why branding is usually dumb. And I almost said, we're not doing that one. And but then I was curious. So Matt, tell me why branding is usually dumb.
So I throw the word usually in there because I think it's important. I don't think that branding is dumb, but I think the way that especially a lot of small businesses go about it is usually dumb. So the question that I ask to business owners is this branding, or is this you being a little overly infatuated with your own company? And what I mean by that is, so I always use the example of Apple, right? Everybody looks to Apple as this staple brand. This brand it's never going anywhere, no matter what economic conditions. It seems to survive everything, right? And it's this mainstay brand with a whole bunch of products underneath of it. And I think what happens is business owners look to big brands like that, Apple, Coca-Cola, that kind of stuff, and try to like mimic what they do, and they don't realize that those guys have so much cash to throw at different branding campaigns and stuff, that trying to mimic what they do, you can't mimic what they do right now, right? You have to mimic what they did when they were starting out. And it always comes down to and this is what you said before we started, and was it comes down to your core values, right? That's going to be a huge part of your brand. But then the other thing is, it comes down to having an excellent product or service, right? This is why I always tell people Apple's been around forever, but they didn't become the brand that they are until the iPhone, right? The iPod or iPhone, it was like there were MP3 players out there, and then Apple hit the market with the iPod, and it just blew everything else out of the water, right? And BlackBerry was actually, if not first to market, one of the first major players in the touchscreen smartphone market. And then Apple came out with the iPhone and just put to shame everything else. So it was an excellent product or service that built the brand, not the other way around.
Exactly.
The reason I say branding is usually dumb is because I always use the home service industry in this, right? Stuff like branding online, in your networking, having that like brand of core values and stuff, that's important branding for a small business. But a lot of home service businesses, that's my background. I'm an electrician before Titan 100, for the viewers that know. But a lot of times what I see is companies like that spending thousands of dollars on things like truck wraps, when you're not at that stage yet, and you're throwing money at something that really isn't going to turn as many heads as we tell ourselves it will. Having a well-branded truck in that industry is great, and it is a great tool. But if you're struggling to hire technicians, or if you're struggling to get work, or I've seen this happen before, where business owners tell themselves, okay, if I can just get my trucks lettered, people are going to start seeing it on the road, but it's never going to pay off as fast as something like just Google pay-per-click will for the home service industry. Right.
Exactly.
A good example of this, I have my wife's cousin. He owns a pest control business, right? And he called me because he knows I do this kind of consulting stuff with Titan 100. And he called me and said, hey, man, I'm looking to build my brand. And he ran a couple businesses by me of stuff that he's looking to do. And I kept saying to him, like, man, I think all of that is a waste of money right now. Like, for example, he was going to hire, have you ever heard of, I don't know if I should say their name or not. Have you ever heard of Review Buzz?
Yes. Yeah.
So he was going to go hire Review Buzz. And I think Review Buzz does a good service. I know ASMM does it, and I think they do it better. But handling the reviews and stuff, I think is important. But his problem was that he just didn't have many reviews, right? And so what I told him, I'm like, look, before you start throwing cash at something like that and telling yourself, oh, this is going to build my brand or whatever, just start asking homeowners when you're done a job for a review, right?
Exactly.
Hey, would you mind putting a review on? It's free. It takes 5 seconds. And he started doing that. And within 1 week, his reviews had gone. He had 7 Google reviews, and he had went up to like 13.
Yeah, I actually want to give you a tip about that. And this is something people don't think of. And it's so powerful. At the beginning of the day, before you send, whether you're going out by yourself or you're sending a crew out, at the beginning of the day, have them cut or copy something that says, here's where you go to leave a review on their phone. And then while they're standing there with the homeowner, say, would you mind leaving a review? And then say, I can text you a link, and text it to them while you're standing there, because you've already copied it. You're not going to have to go and find it. Right. You just have it. So you're going to copy it right into the text, send it to them, and they can just click. Make it. I will tell you, I want to give you I have been dying to say this out loud. I wanted to make an appointment last week with somebody, with an electrician, actually. I wanted to make an appointment with an electrician, and I put it out there and said, I called the guy, and he said, I'm going to send you my card. I need you to email me to make the appointment. It took me, the only reason I actually did it was because he is the husband of a friend.
Okay.
Right. Had he not been, I would have just found somebody else, because the fact that I had to put it in, I couldn't just click on it. It was just too much work, honestly. Right. It was too much work, and I would have forgotten about him. And the only reason I didn't forget about him was because he was a husband of a friend. So make it easy. Whatever you do, make it easy for people.
Yeah.
So.
But that's why, so like I always say, make it easy for yourself too. Right. And that's what, like, because we worked with Review Buzz before when I was in the home service industry, and it was great and it was important. But with like my wife's cousin's business I was talking about, he's his only employee right now.
Right.
He does it all himself. And so I'm like, man, to go and throw money at that when you can literally just stand there with the homeowner and say, hey, can I get a review while I'm here? It's free. And it's so that's what when I say branding is dumb, I don't literally mean, I say branding is usually dumb. Branding is important for your business and your core values. Having like right. We talk about discipline and consistency. One of my big things is you have to have a consistent social media presence and stuff. But to throw thousands of dollars at wrapping your trucks when you have just you as an employee or something is, you're putting the cart before the horse on stuff like that. And so that's what I mean when I say branding is usually dumb.
Right. Well, and you said something, and I don't know if you said it at the beginning of this, but you said it when we talked earlier. Brandon is often stroking your own ego.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure that that's not what you're doing. So I will have people who want me to put out an email for them, a regular monthly email. And I do that for a lot of clients, and it works really, really, really well. Once in a while, we'll get a client that for whatever reason, their people do not respond to their emails. They don't open them. They don't do anything with them. And the client will say to me, but I love my email. And I'm like, it's not for you to love. It's not, and I'm like, I'm cutting I'm cutting a fee. I'm saying, hey, the service I'm offering you don't need. So let's cut it. And it saves the money. Yeah. But they still want it because they really like seeing their name in the banner. If it's not working for you, I don't want you to do it.
Yeah. And so like I have I have one existing client from when I did like when I first quit and went self-employed, I did freelance writing for a little while until I decided what I want to be when I grow up. I still have one client that I do weekly emails for. And the only reason I still have them, industry standard is like a 14% open rate for them in marketing emails. We hit like over 30% every single week when we send it out. But again, it's a branding email, but again, it comes back to that's so successful. It's not because like anything that I'm doing. I mean, I'm good at that side of it, but it specifically has such a high open rate because he's been super, super intentional about building that audience and getting people that would respond through excellent customer service. That's why they respond. They respond to the service first, and then the brand follows. So you hit them with your iPhone, you hit them with your iPod or whatever, and then the brand sticks. And that's what makes them remember you, right? It's not just that you ran this really cool email marketing campaign.
Right, exactly. So Matt, I'm gonna put your phone number up here. Before I tell people that they should call you, I want you to tell them what a Titan is. What qualifies you to be a Titan?
So a Titan is I always say it's networking for people who want to play at a higher level. And when I say a higher level, I don't mean any kind of revenue cap or anything like that. I'm strictly talking about when you're sick of the status quo, when you're sick of doing it alone, when you're sick of just like always accepting the way things are, whatever it is, a Titan is somebody that pushes forward and doesn't just push themselves forward, but pushes the people around them forward. And so a Titan, somebody that comes into the Titan circle, is somebody that knows, man, I can help push these people forward. But at the same time, putting myself in a group of people that all have that same mindset is going to push me forward as well. And that's just as important as pushing other people forward. So that to me is what a Titan is. It's not, when I call you a Titan of industry, I know that ASMM isn't the biggest social media company out there.
Right.
But you're a Titan in that industry because of the mindset you have. You have that big player mindset. When day one, when you started your business, you had that big player mindset.
Right.
And that's how you've grown it as fast as you've grown it in what you like
4 years. This is my fourth year.
As fast as you've grown it in 4 years, like that's crazy. And it all comes from that mindset of the forward thinking, wanting to push everybody else outside of the comfort zone in addition to yourself. That's what it means to be a Titan to me. It's not about how much revenue you make or how many employees or trucks on the road you have. It's all about mindset.
Awesome. So if you think you fit into this category, and actually, even if you don't think, but other people think it, because I'm not sure that I always think of myself as being a Titan, but if you think other people think it about you, which there are people who tell me this kind of thing, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Thank you. But if you're one of those people, then call Matt. His number's 443-790-8610. Leave comments below. I want to also encourage you. I saw Chris Haas had left. By the way, Chris Haas and Christopher Case are both in my phone. And I call Christopher Case all the time because he's a client. And every single freaking time it calls Chris Haas. So I'm so sorry, Chris. I do it to him all the time. Anyway.
Our dad's assistant is named Marcy.
Uh-huh.
And so I get calls all the time where it says Dad, and I'll answer the phone and I'll say hello. And he goes, I meant to call Marcy, and hang up.
Yeah, I do that to Chris all the time. He's like, are you trying to call Chris Case? And I'm like, yep, that's exactly what I'm doing. I want to go. We have another comment. I want to check on it real quick. Matt, actually, this is a good one from Charlotte, all the way from Denmark. Who's your role model?
Oh, that's a good question. So I have a couple. So for sales and business, I love Zig Ziglar. His speeches are motivating, and at the same time, I feel like he really is a master of his craft, and that's what I want to be. I want to master something. I don't want to just skate by. So for business, I love Zig Ziglar. Overall role models. I've been Maryland born and raised. I've been around Baltimore my whole life, but I consider myself a pretty strong Yankees fan, and that's because Derek Jeter. And the only reason for Derek Jeter is he had such a long career, and it was so. This is in line with my core values. It's such a long career, and he was a big name in baseball for so long. And to have that long of a career and be that in the spotlight, and he never had a scandal. That I love, minor scandals here and there, like whatever drama was happening with his wife, but never any kind of like real big, when celebrities fall apart, and just to be able to maintain that level of composure that he had, with all of the attention and spotlight and stress that must have been put on him. That's how I want to be able to conduct myself in my daily life and in my business.
That's great. Actually, I have to tell you, so it's funny because Carrie came right on after Charlotte and said, Ann, who's your role model? And I haven't thought too much about this. And this is a confession. Remember, I said I'm completely authentic. I tell you guys everything. I spent so much of my life trying to do the exact opposite of my mom, which is a horrible thing to say publicly. But she was, I guess, the anti-role model. And so I spent a lot of my life saying, I'm going to do the opposite of that. And it worked for me. And it got me through, my whole childhood. It got me through college, and it's gotten me through a lot of stuff. So that's having an anti-role model has been very powerful. And I know it's a horrible thing to say about your own mother, but it's the truth. And I'm completely authentic. I tell you those things. As far as role models go, Mark Schaefer, if you guys have a chance to read, he's got a book called Marketing Rebellion. I absolutely love that book. He's so knowledgeable about marketing. But what I really, really love about him is that he just talks human. He speaks human. And I think that's hugely powerful to be able to speak to somebody and not throw all this jargon around. I think it's so important not to throw the jargon around, because the people who you're talking to, if you're an electrician and you start talking, we just had this. We're dealing with, and actually Chris Haas, by the way, is coming out to our house. He was not the one who gave me his card. It was somebody else. But Chris Haas is coming out to give us a quote on this house. And we had a home inspector who said to us, he's trying to tell me this electric stuff. I'm like, I don't know what you mean. What is that word that you keep throwing at me? Can you write it down? I don't like that. It makes me a little crazy. So anyway, that's one of them. And then Matt, I'm so sorry, because I know I'm just going to do this to you since we're throwing parents out there. One of my biggest role models has been your dad, because I First of all, because he was my third client. I say this a lot. My first two clients were to make the money that I was making at my job prior. And my third client was the one where I said, oh, okay, this is an actual business. And so, but not only that, he sat down with me and said, these are the things, you started this business with a business card, and that was it. So let me tell you some of the things you need to know. And I think that's been hugely helpful. So, gosh, we have a lot of stuff going on. So John Maggio said, great show, a great point, great shows. Kurt Jackson said, great to see you, great information. He's got to run to another meeting. And then Christy Wallace says, thank you for a great live talk, super helpful. I think this was a really good one. I'm totally going to have you back on because I love talking to you. Plus, maybe we'll talk small talk and make you a little uncomfortable. All right. Tomorrow I have Michael from Able Spark on, and I want to tell you guys, yes, we're going to talk about CRMs. That is a huge part of what we're going to talk about. But I spoke with him yesterday. He always seems so quiet. I ended up on the phone with him for 30 minutes yesterday. But in the first 10 minutes, he gave me his talking points. And they're so powerful because they're actually action items that you can take and move forward with. So please tune in tomorrow. Please share this. Please subscribe to me over on YouTube so you can help me out and keep my kid from thinking I'm such a nerd because I only have 450 followers over there. So, get me up to 500 at least, so then he'll not think I'm a complete nerd. So I can appreciate that. Matt, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Hang around when I go off live because I want to talk to you for a minute.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was a blast. I'll come back on anytime.
No, it's really fun. Thanks, Matt.